It's like if it's windy out and you see the greenhouse starting to take off, don't grab it. Get out, and if it's still buffering, take a knife and just start cutting the plastic. Because if you grab a hold of that thing and it takes off, it is taking you with it. That's a gigantic parachute. You're not getting away from it.
You're listening to How I Grow This, exploring stories of gardeners from across the globe as we learn from their biggest tips and tricks to some of the things not to do. I'm your host, Luke Hammond. Farmer Keith, so excited to have you on the podcast. I'm going to hit it right. I'm just going to go right there and ask, what got you into small-scale vegetable growing?
Well, I made the mistake back in 2015, went to the Mother Earth News Fair, the big conference that used to travel around the nation, saw a lot of the greats there, Elliott Coleman, J.M. Fortier, whole host of other small-scale farmers. I kind of kicked the bug. I just moved out to the family land where I built a house earlier that year, and I wanted to do something growing produce-wise, and I really had no clue. Like I said, made the mistake, went there. Went out and bought Elliott Coleman's book that week, James' book that week. Literally, after Saturday, watching JM speak, I came home, got out the tiller and the plot I was going to use, set up my first market garden beds, literally that night. Went back the next day, got to see a whole bunch of other cool stuff, and it's just kind of evolved from there.
Oh, so 2015, you go to a conference and you get so jazzed up, you go right into it. What were you doing beforehand, like as a career? Like what was what did your life look like to like full stop, conference, okay, career change. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, before that, I was doing, worked in a weights and measures laboratory for the state of Kansas. I was a mass metrologist, Echelon 1 laboratory, top of the line right underneath the NIST, which is our national standard of bureaus where they actually hold the kilograms for the US. And I was doing that. And before that, I'd done construction my whole entire life. And then I went to work for them for about 4-5 years and found out being trapped in a room with no windows and white walls all day was not for me.
So you had to leave the lab and head to the farm. I love it. I love it. So one of the things I've noticed on your YouTube channel, and it's probably pulling like from all your past experiences, is you're really like the best that I've seen, and I'll call it bootstrapping it, like totally scrapping together amazing functional automation on the budget, and just really kind of mind-blowing stuff. Like, hey, I'm not going to use a CoolBot system to make a refrigerator. I'm going to make one on my own. Or I'm not going to buy this irrigation system. I'm going to make one for way less money. Or I'm not going to buy this, everything down to like a rake. You're like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make my own rake with my welder. So like, I'm just kind of mind blown from that. So can you just walk me through some of the things that you have built, created, bootstrapped, figured out along the journey?
Well, yeah, there are tons of things I've created. I grew up in a contractor family, so my family built houses. I've been out on job sites since I was literally 5 years old, working on them, cleaning, did all the trades all the way through. So I pretty much had all the skills already. So I think the first thing I actually put together was actually, I got a reach-in refrigerator, didn't work, cut a hole in the side for a window air conditioner, couldn't afford a CoolBot at the time or a real refrigerator. So that's when I came up with the Inkbird light bulb and taking the sensor out. I mean, it's the same concept where I actually believe the CoolBots actually, came from originally. And that's what I do with a lot of this stuff is I try to reverse engineer it to, at one point in time, this is a prototype. I can make a prototype. Can I make it work? Maybe. If not, you just keep working on it until you start to look like a finished product. I mean, I built those CoolBot systems, do the automated side curtains. Let's see, took a regular tiller, turned it into a tilter. It's a little mini tiller, it's about 12 inches wide. Just simply putting a cowl around it. That's probably where that originated. What else do I have out here? All the irrigation systems. I started off with just using little impact heads on corners and setting timers and things like that. Moved more into the standardized products now, but only putting them together the way that works best for me. That's really where a lot of it comes from. I mean, the whole thing with doing any type of small gardening, market gardening, small farms is that you have to make things work for your farm. You can't just, you know, build your whole farm out and expect to find equipment for it. There's a lot out there, but there's also not really a lot out there. I mean, there's a few people that sell the stuff, and a lot of them have, since closed shop, retired. I mean, there's not that much selection. So you really have to work to not necessarily invent, but kind of reinvent things to work best for you. And like you said, the landscape rake did that because those things are expensive. So I bought some, little steel dowels, and I just picked up a used welder. I was like, well, I'm going to do a project, see if I can't make a rake real quick. So yeah, it worked out great. I still use it to this day, actually.
So let's use a couple examples of that, of, from like my mind and your mind. We kind of are naturally leaning into the, uh, I don't know how to say it, but we're naturally leaning into the, we don't have a lot of resources as a small scale grower and producer, and we have a very limited budget. And so we look at some things and we go, I think it's worth it for me to buy that, or I think it's worth it for me to make that. Um, what's an example of like how much it costs you to make the rake versus the cost of a commercial bed rake that's 30 inches wide?
Yeah, the rake itself was about, I think I've got $5 of metal in it. And then went and cut down a piece of, what was that? Walnut that was growing up front, just a long stick like a handle, shaved it off. So $5, $6. And then you go out and purchase one. I think those are running about 130, 150 right now. And that's for the actual tined rake, not like your typical landscape rake where they just have the cutout use, but those are still, you know, 80 to $100. And they don't dig in. I mean, they're not what you need for market gardening.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So rather than spending 130, and some of them are even more than that, you spent $20 maybe,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe an hour of your time, 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean,
Maybe 2 hours at the most. I mean, I come up with the ideas in my head, start to draw out what I want. By the time I'm making it, I just go and build it. So it's usually pretty quick to put something like that together.
gotcha. So 2015, nearly 11 years ago, you went from no farming experience to a conference, got all jazzed up, bought 2 books, started turning this thing around. You're like, I'm going to become a market gardener. Um, did you have money saved up? Were you still working full time? How did you scale into that? And were you successful year one?
Um, I didn't quit my job right away because I had no clue if it was going to work or not. I mean, it's like anything. It's almost like you go to this conference. It's almost, you get so much information. It's like an infomercial where you're just, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to quite work or not. So no, I continued working for quite a while there. Um, more than anything, it's a slow build. So you can't just go, oh, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow if you don't have a partner that has a full-time job that is actually bringing in extra income and say, I'm going to start market gardening. Because that's the number one way that anybody that gets into trying to do this, they fail because it takes time. You have to build your brand. You have to build your processes, your methods. You have to look into resources. I mean, it's just not a 1-year project. It actually took me, I really stopped building, infrastructure and stuff on this farm about last year. Last year is really the first season I didn't take on any big projects other than replacing some greenhouse plastic. But prior to that, that's how long it takes to get things set to the system that works for you. I mean, you can't just follow what everybody says because it doesn't work everywhere. I mean, that's plain and simple. That's where a lot of the books out there try to point just in a specific direction instead of, no, there's lots of directions. You just have to find the one that hones back to you and your system, what equipment you already have. Like I had a small little Kubota tractor beforehand. Turns out those little Japanese tractors were specifically built to go over 30-inch market beds. It's kind of amazing.
Hmm. So which tractor are you talking about there? The Kubota or?
Yeah, I've got a little B7200, and
Okay.
if you spread the rear wheels out, there's 30 inches in between the front wheels, 30 inches in between the rear wheels.
Gotcha. So it's a designed with maybe a on the back, 10 inches of track path,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the rear
right?
tires maybe 10 inches. I think I get about 8 inches of actually depression because I'm not carrying any weight on it. I got a small little tiller on the back that I've put a shield on, and then a bed roller on it, which is actually a concrete tamper, I think you want to call it. Never Sink sells something that looks exactly like them. You can buy them pretty much anywhere. So I could just use the 3 point where it levels it in the back and adjust that back and kind of set it like a depth roller, like the little walk behind tractors have.
Mhm. Very cool. All right. So let's talk about context, scale, location, all the different things. So that typically in the How I Grow This podcast, we really want to dial in on context because as you just talked about, everyone has kind of talked about their particular program, their model, their farm, and kind of showcase that as a great way to get started. And some people are trying to duplicate those same farms and styles and processes in areas that it really may not work, both from a market standpoint, both from a growing standpoint. And everyone's trying to kind of work that system. So let's talk about your context, location, um, high temps in the summer, cold in the winter, how your shoulder seasons work. Just walk us through your context for us.
Yeah, we're located in northeast Kansas. Um, Kansas City, we're about 50 minutes. Let's see, we're west of there. So we're right outside Topeka, the capital city of Kansas. Um, Low temperatures, I think we got down to -10 this year for an extended period of time of nighttime lows with highs not exceeding 20. Summertime, hot, humid, 100. Every August, we'll have at least 2 or 3 weeks of 97 to 100-degree temperatures. Shoulder seasons, super, super windy out here. So when the
Kansas.
temperature yeah, when the temperature shifts from hot to cold, we will have what I've come to call long duration wind events because they can last from 3 to 5 days where you do not have winds under 20 miles an hour, and they'll exceed actually gusts sometimes of 50. That's how I lost the, plastic on the high tunnel one year. We were having nice sustained 15, 20-mile-per-hour wind coming through, and then all of a sudden we got a 45-mile-an-hour gust. It just basically the roll-up curtain had come up on that south side. I was in it working. All of a sudden I just heard a pop, and the whole top was flapping in the wind behind me. So
Whoa. So just it did it unzip or did it rip or how did that happen?
it ripped, basically unzipped right up the wiggle wire tracks on both sides. So right up that line where the stress was, it just took it and literally just folded it back. I mean, it was still hanging on, but that's the main stress point of that plastic. But it was only 3 years old. I should have been able to get another couple seasons out of it, but it is what it is here. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't fight it. I have to work with it. Same thing like everybody suggests doing tarping. I cannot keep a tarp down outside of a greenhouse for the life of me. I've tried burying them. I've tried weights on top of them. It does not work.
Really? So how many I think that's one of the common things on like a silage tarp. They just say, "Well, if I have sustained winds, what do I do?" And most people just say, "Well, add more sandbags. Add more sandbags." And you've tried burying it, you've tried weights across the middle, you just can't keep them down.
No, I mean, you can add more sandbags, but you're literally going to have them touching each other all the way around the whole entire thing and possibly another row on top because sandbags are plastic. You got the slick dirt underneath. That plastic's just going to, as it buffers, just pull its way out eventually. And as soon as you lose a corner, it's a gigantic sail and it's going to go. Kind of the same concept that I always tell people when they first start working out here. It's like if it's windy out and you see the greenhouse starting to take off, don't grab it. Get out, and if it's still buffering, take a knife and just start cutting the plastic. Because if you grab a hold of that thing and it takes off, it is taking you with it. That's a gigantic parachute. You're not getting away from it.
Yeah, you're just gonna get hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
wow, wow. I don't think a lot of people that I've talked to have wins like that. I've never heard this kind of thing. Like I can't keep a silage tarp down on the ground flat with weights all over it. Like I haven't heard that. That's a new one for me. Um, so we've got pretty high temperatures. That's definitely shutting down your plants for, peak production. In the summer, you've got pretty high humidity through there. What do you do to try to keep your plants still active and growing through those high temperature seasons?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I've never had problems with things shutting down. We do lettuce all year round. So
Okay.
the number one thing I do for lettuce is after we hit 90 degrees, everything is transplanted or direct seeded underneath shade cloth. So use single row hoops on that, tension at both ends, put a couple of gravel bags down the way, the row bags, and that pretty much keeps them down because they have the ability to, let wind through them. Greenhouses, not more than just open them up as much as possible. The tomato yield does go down a little bit, but I've never had the problem of them just completely shutting down. The biggest problem I have with our temperatures, because they swing so much, is trying to get broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages to actually get to the harvesting point because they'll look beautiful. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to harvest some things. You literally come out the next day and they bolt it. I mean, it's literally that quick. They just don't cooperate. And cabbage is the same way. They'll just shoot out through the middle. It's just, it basically is what it is. I can't fight it. The only thing I can do is scale those things to a reasonable risk and try to push towards the other crops that I know will actually make it.
Okay. -10 in the winter. Are you trying to go the Elliott Coleman route and do, 4-season market farm? Or are you shutting down primarily through the deep winter?
No, I have sold through every winter after second season. So the trick with having temperatures that low is that during your shoulder season, once you hit those Persephone dates, everything pretty much just stops growing. So you have to have it grown. And then it's basically, I'm in the high tunnels, I'm in the cat tunnels, and every day you take off your row fabric, let it breathe. Every night you cover back over it. So you're not spending a ton of time doing it because I know I see a lot of videos on YouTube saying it's not profitable to grow in the winter. In all actuality, it is because you're literally going to have 30 minutes a day uncovering and covering, and then you're going to have what you're harvesting, and you're only harvesting what you need to order because at that time of year, we're taking orders in. We're not farmers market because they don't exist around here during the winter. So I'm getting exactly what I need. I'm not wasting anything. I'm not wasting any time, any energy. It really keeps it very simple. It's just all about nailing those plant dates because if you miss it by, say, 2 weeks in the fall, you're not going to have, a cabbage that should be ready in about December. You're looking at February. I mean, it's that drastic. When it drops like a rock, and you basically just wait. I've still never nailed it perfectly on my winter brassicas, but I always have them, January, February, sometimes Christmas. So it's always a treat for the people that order online from us for the winter.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about your process of establishing markets. Walk me through maybe the first few years as you're thinking back 11 years ago, starting from nothing, trying to figure out how to start this brand, trying to market this food, trying to grow all this stuff. There's kind of challenges all along the way, and different people have different challenges. Walk me through your challenges getting started, moving directly into market gardening.
Yeah, the first trick is try to find a really highly populated farmers market and then just go try it. The first season, we grew maybe 10 different things at most. I think it was closer to 5 or 6. But I quickly noticed that we found a hole in the farmers market. Nobody was doing greens, radishes, the typical quick crops that Curtis Stone made popular. Nobody was doing those. So that's where we really got our niche in initially. I mean, basically, first market, we set up a table, got a couple of those little crate boxes, put them on there, just kind of put stuff out, hand wrote out the signs. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is actually working. People are coming and buying our stuff. And I at time, I really didn't get it more than, well, I think I should probably plant a little bit more, in the next couple weeks. And working through the first season, we just kind of spread the stand a little bit more. Tablecloths, got a tent to get underneath because it rains a lot here. Um, just the simple things. And then really the second and third season is when really started to focus on branding. Started to create our logo. We had our logo on our tent itself so everybody could see it. Went into getting a label maker to start labeling all of our greens. So each label has our logo, our name on it. Pretty much everything we were doing, we had our brand on. We were using paper handle sacks. We bought a stamp about that big with our logo on it. We stamp hand every single one of those. So every time people were purchasing us from us, they were absorbing the logo, absorbing our quality. We're letting them know that we're doing this all naturally. We're not spraying chemicals. We're doing this the best, cleanest way possible. And it just really takes time. I mean, once people, if especially like in a market where we're at, where everybody's basically traditional growers, once they start to really find you, that's when the word spreads. Also did a lot of Facebook advertising back then, which was way more influential than it is nowadays. It just every way possible. Building an email list. Like year one, we were already building an email list. So we could start sending out not necessarily weekly newsletters, but just kind of sending out correspondence here and there. First season, we did a little bit in the winter. And after the farmer's market had ended for the season, we just give them a time window. They call them or email an order in and we'd meet them up there. I mean, now it's drastically evolved where we're a known brand. We've been out there for 10 years now. We do delivery. We have a web store. We had a CSA that we tried to work everything way possible, but here it just doesn't quite mesh as it does in other places. So basically we tried everything and we narrowed it all the way back down to where we're at today.
Gotcha. Go ahead and walk me through kind of that progression or that bell curve of like you were trying this outlet and this outlet and this outlet and things that were a challenge point for you and your farm that may have worked in other areas. And then things that you're like, hey, you know what? That's actually not working as much for us. Here's where we're really landing and where we're putting our focus.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were doing what, 5 farmer markets a week and really didn't have the web store really set up that much to really sell out. And when I started looking at the numbers, it's like, we're almost spending as much time at a farmer's market as we are on the back end of the farm where everything's going on. But the sales of certain markets are barely even paying the wages of the person. So is it really worth having that much production just to pay somebody to stand out there and then put more stress on this side of the farm? So it's a balance. I mean, we originally, about year 4, we were 4 employees and me and my wife. So we were really large. Since then, getting good help has been a real difficult issue, I know, for everybody. I pretty much scaled it back enough to where I am primarily in the field. And then I try to get somebody in the pack house part-time, doing all the post harvest, washing, packing, filling orders. Because it's something I never really enjoyed anyways. I mean, I can do it, but it's just never where I wanted to be. So it's when you go up, you hit the growing pain spot, and then you're like, well, if I don't have 3 employees show up, guess who's doing all that work this week? And it's all about, that's the great thing with market gardening. It's all about scaling it to where you want to be. You can go anywhere from a simple 40 by 40 plot and do a simple little farmer's market, bring in a couple $100 every week. Perfect. That works great for you. Or you can go up to, I mean, I was planting on acre blocks there for a while. I discovered that does not work when people don't show up. So I scaled it back towards more of the traditional market gardening where you're working on, I think my blocks they're 90 foot long. I want to say 60 some foot wide. So I've got, 8, 16, 32 beds in each. So I'm working on 2 of those. And then I've got 2 cat tunnels and a high tunnel. And they're all 90 foot long because that's kind of how the farm got built out to where it fit into the area I had to put it in. So again, It's so scalable that anytime you feel, overwhelmed, overburdened, the simplest way is just to scale it back a little bit and not burn yourself out. I mean, that's the number one thing that kills farms. When I first started this, when we were at the farmers market, year 2 and 3, we ended up with 3 or 4 other farms almost exactly like ours, and we are now the only one left.
Mm. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think you and I have had some conversations of um, kind of the condition of market farming and small scale food production and even the backyard grower. There's a lot of farms across America that are shutting down. What do you think some of the reasons are behind that? Is it is it the skill or ability to grow? Is it they're not making enough money from the farm? Like what may be some of the reasons why farms are shutting down across America?
Yeah, at least in our area, that I've seen a noticeable drop at our farmers market since about 22. It really we did peak in 20 just like they did in a lot of places, and that really stayed consistent until about 22, and then I started to notice more of a drop off. But in our area, the majority of the people going to the farmers market are your baby boomers. They're all retiring. They're now on a limited income, and I believe that's where a lot of it comes from because they don't have as much money to spend. They've got the time, but they're also being very conscientious of where their purchases are going now. Really, the whole infrastructure part of the farm stuff really hasn't gotten that much tremendously more expensive. Labor could be a bigger one in a lot of areas because I know what I can pay here because I run the numbers. In other places, I hear the stuff, the amounts they're paying people. And it's like, I would have to sell a single bag of lettuce for like $7 or $8 to be able to pay wages at that rate. I mean, it's just, there's a whole bunch of factors involved with it. So it's really hard
Mm,
to name one. But in my area, the biggest one is all of our customers basically have retired and they really can't afford to splurge like that. We'll see them every other week instead of every week, some every month instead of every week. I mean, it's kind of just the way things are evolving nowadays.
hmm. It's been said within market garden circles, stack it high, watch it fly, and other phrases of you want to grow as much different things as you can rather than bulk of specific crops. Have you found that to only be true on the market side or, even on the online store? Are you trying to provide, 10 or 15 different crops? What's the breadth of your, I guess, offerings, product offerings?
Oh yeah, I just crunched the numbers here a couple weeks ago. Last year we had 35 different items that we sold throughout the season and on the online store. Mm, I am going to scale that back this year. I'm going to shoot for like 25, but then I usually get excited and throw a couple more in there. But the whole pile it high, watch it fly does work, but don't make the pile too high. Literally, what you show up with, that's your pile. Don't have 3 more bins to keep making that pile because then you'll end up with another tote that you're going to take home with you. Um, as for growing tons of different varieties, some people want an all in one shop, but those are more of where you have a store on your property that people can actually go and shop at, not necessarily the farmer's market. Because, especially even at mine, I've tried to do things that other people specialize in, and they'll come buy what I specialize in, lettuce and greens, more or less. And then they'll go buy that other stuff from the other person. They've been buying it for years. I mean, it's just the variety at the farmer's market is basically from the farmer's market. It should not solely be from your table alone. And a lot of people that do that, we have the big problem around here of people that buy bulk wholesale and then resell at the farmer's market. So they have that variety. And people are also getting very keen to that nowadays too. So if they see that, they're actually less likely to go to your stand unless they've had a lot of previous experiences with you, knowing that you're actually growing all this stuff and you're just not getting it from somebody else, getting a wholesale box that you don't even know where it came from.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen, trying to catch a finger on the pulse of like the market farm experience across America, if you will. I've seen this a lot where all the farmers are growing, and the farmers are there and they're selling their produce, and they're kind of looking over at the other vendors going, oh, they've got, what is that variety they're growing? And then the next year, everyone's got the same stuff, and everyone's growing the same variety produce, and it's like, hey, 2 years ago nobody had this particular cucumber, now everybody's growing this particular cucumber. Have you seen that over the last 11 years of growing for markets and going to 5 different markets?
Honestly, I was the person that grew all the other stuff. In Kansas, where we're at, people do not want the weird stuff. They do not want purple cabbage. They don't want purple broccolis. Took me years to get people to buy daikons and like watermelon radishes, the black Neros. People just 2 towns over from here where we used to sell, love them. I can't sell them here for the life of me. So more than anything, around here, I can't do everything. I've got to have the traditional type produce. I just have to have it, higher quality, cleaner product that people are aware. And it also helps to grow, the varieties that don't transport well. Like you can't just go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of French breakfast radishes. You can't order in a wholesale box of them and have the reseller across the way from us selling them because they can't get them. And those again are things that it takes a while to get your customers to actually appreciate. A lot of times it involves sampling, throwing in an extra one in their bag, say, hey, you just got to try these. I mean, just it's the little things that build that up. But as for all of the, cool crops I like growing, all the different stuff, I've had to limit it back to, normal looking stuff that I just know that grows really good in our hot, humid environment.
Okay. I want to do a hard pivot and start talking about soil fertility, what you're doing to grow your crops and to keep it consistent year round, and then how you're managing pests. So let's start with soil fertility because that's where everything starts. What is your program? What has your program look like in the past, and what does your program look like now, and what's the condition of your soil?
Yeah, pretty much. Number one step of fertility is we test every year. So I take a test every year, look at my numbers. I've got spreadsheets built out to where I know what zone I want to be in. And I basically will create some kind of mix, not like a lot of people do where they just make a big mix and they use it all year. I will do a spring amendment of different micronutrients and macronutrients, and then a fall amendment. Other than that, I've got a drop seeder that I basically cut the holes bigger in the bottom of it. And for our fertilizer, we use a Nature Safe 855. I've got it calculated out in the drop seeder calibrated. One pass down puts down 100 pounds per acre equivalent of nitrogen. 2 passes, 200. So keep it simple. Either do 100 pounds per acre equivalent nitrogen or 200 pounds an acre equivalent nitrogen. And it just makes the system so much easier. Pretty much anything in the ground for a long time gets 2 passes. Anything coming out quickly gets 1. Really juice it during the hot summertime because I want the greens to grow big quick. But other than that, watch the pH, try to keep the tillage as minimal as possible. We do shallow tillage, but I'm talking 2 inches, 2.5 at the most. And we do not use raised beds here anymore. We keep everything on the flat plane because if I do the raised beds, we get a Kansas thunderstorm to come through, drop 2 inches of rain in 30 minutes, and you don't have raised beds anymore or anything that was growing in them because it all gets washed away. I learned my lesson from that.
So it's just eating away at the sides of that bed.
No, it just overtops it and takes the whole thing. I mean,
Okay.
we'll get water coming over the ground an inch deep in spots, and once it hits basically bare soil, it accelerates and it'll just follow whatever path it wants, and it will just eat the whole thing away. I've lost whole entire beds of carrots because that just happened to be the one spot where the ground was just a little bit lower where that bed was, and it just the water funneled to it. I've done a lot of work out here with building in ditches and berms and things to divert the water around because I've known about this because I grew up out here on this property. I've known for years there's spots where when it rains, you're up to an ankle deep in water, and we are actually up on a bluff. We're not even in a really low lying area.
Okay. So you mentioned a product, Nature Safe 855. Is that what it was? What is in that product? What is that product comprised of, and where do people check that product out if they're interested?
Yeah, primarily it's a alfalfa blend, chicken meal, blood meal. It's got some calcium in it to fight the pH drop from nitrogen introduction. I purchase it locally, but you can order it online as well. I found it's very expensive to have a 50-pound bag of fertilizer shipped, and it's about the actual cost of the bag. So you're paying double. Seven Spring Farms was where I was sourcing it for a little while. A good place to look locally is find out where landscape companies are ordering their stuff at. Um, Also, golf courses, same thing, because they like to use organic stuff out there because, people are out there touching the grass all the time. I actually get it out of Kansas City from Advanced Turf Solution because they're the big wholesaler to all these different places around here. And Kansas City's a big city, so I can find it there. I cannot find it here.
Mhm. Yeah. So what the as you describe those products, I know what it's like, and I I know the product, but what's the composition of that product? You said you put it through like a drop seeder. Is that a seeder that you fill the hopper and you push and it just kind of lightly drops that dry powder? Is it like a dry powder? Is it more like the what's the texture of that product?
Yeah, I actually use the pelleted, the little preels. Um, they're actually a larger prill. They're not the little tiny ones, but they also sell that product in the tiny prills. They sell it in granular form. I've just found it works best to use that larger pellet. It allows a little bit more freedom when you're spreading it because, if you're just dropping out bigger chunks, you can kind of, even with a cup, walk down the field and shake it out just right. Where if you're using a fine powder, you go and spread it to, all of a sudden you lost half your cup.
Hmm.
Like I said, with the winds out here, when it's blowing, the stuff just blows away. So that's primarily where I've done it. And then the drop seeder, it is one of those. It's a little push behind green drop seeder that you'd see anywhere. It's got the little rotating uh, spindle in it, and it just drops it through slots. I enlarged all mine and did calibration tests in the pack building up here to make sure that it was dropping the exact amount I wanted every time. Otherwise, I had a cup that I used to use before that, and I'd weigh the product in it, and then I just cut the cup off or put a line at that point, and I just fill it out there, and that would do 40-foot bed, or do two and do a 90-foot bed. It's all about standardization and really getting things set, basically for your farm.
Hmm. Let's talk about pest control. What are you doing? Like, what kind of pests are you facing now? What have you faced in the past? What were some of the solutions that you found?
Pest control is one of the about most difficult things being on a scale like this. Uh, we deal with aphids, of course, in the spring. They're not horrible. I mean, a potassium soap, easy, organic. They'll knock them back. It never really takes care of them until the ladybugs come in. Uh, Another big one we run through is cabbage looper. So the white moths, they lay little caterpillars all over the way. You can simply, uh, let's see, yeah, BT. That's the simplest one. We've actually gone to a system now where we're just insect netting at transplant. And then that just stays on there. That prevents the moss from coming in. You do have to worry a little bit about stuff coming up underneath it, but that seems to be the easiest way. Um, had problems with blister beetles real bad a couple years ago where they're coming in waves. Only thing to do with that's pyganic. You have to hit them as soon as you see them because they come in hordes, but they're easy to take out. Any organic, pest control work. Uh, the biggest one we had recently was harlequin beetles. They are the toughest one I've had to deal with so far, and that's really where I started switching to netting everything, because even though, the net's still off the ground a little bit, but they come in from the top. So they
Hmm.
kind of exclude themselves, and they just really can't figure out, or they'll try to chew through the netting itself. The only thing I've ever found to actually do anything with them is you have to mix pyganic and a potassium soap because you have to have some kind of bug killer and it has to be mixed with something that's going to thin it and allow it through their shields because you have to go through the joints and the plates. Otherwise, it won't do it. But again, at this scale, I mean, you're out there with a hand sprayer or a backpack sprayer or something small, so you're really limited. If you're on a large scale farm, you're just put all that in the sprayer and go at it on a schedule. We only go out there and spray when absolutely necessary because honestly, I don't like doing it. Just never cared for it. It's can be very expensive for the cost of it. And also, that's not the reason I got into doing this. I didn't go out there to suit up and spray stuff all day long. I mean, yes, it's organic, but yes, you don't want to be around it continuously. That's a very important part that I always try to stress to people when I'm talking to them about this. So if you're in a greenhouse, a face mask respirator, not just a mask. You want one with the little side cartridges on it because that stuff cycles around in the air in the greenhouse and you do not want to be breathing it in.
Mm, that's really good advice. How, with your beard, do you seal a mask on your face?
I put it on. I mean, it gets tight. It gives me most of the protection. I mean, maybe not 100%, but again, when I'm actually working with that kind of stuff in the greenhouse, my greenhouse is it's hot out. It's fully open anyways, and the wind's blowing through. But it's still in the greenhouse. I always do use a mask at the greenhouse.
Yeah. I was watching a World War II documentary, and I don't know if this is true, but their belief or their interpretation of it, because they had kind of like some real life like actors kind of going flipping back and forth between stuff, was that in World War One, Hitler actually had a long mustache that came out with handlebars in the war, but he got mustard gassed and was got his mask, and his mask wouldn't seal because of his mustache. And he got gassed pretty bad. And after that, he took his field knife and cut his mustache to the iconic short mustache that he was most known for, because of being gassed in World War One. Totally interesting. That's what made me think of the sealed mask, not likening you to Hitler, but I thought that was a wild story if that was true. So anyway, totally random. You talked about all the blowing of the fabrics that you faced. Do you face that with your insect net, or does enough wind pass through the insect netting to where it can actually stay over the crop that you're trying to have?
Yeah, I mean, typically, because the way we set up insect net, we put out our hoops, the little 30-inch hoops over the bed, every 2 paces, which for me is every 5 foot. And then I can take a 90-foot piece of that, that's 6 foot wide. You tension it at the end and you make some big, basically bobby pins, big anchors, wrap it around twice, stick it in the ground, go to the other side and pull it as hard as you can, and then do the same thing and drop it. So when you do that, you've tensioned the top and then you pull it over on the sides and you tension both the sides and that original pull. And then I might put 90 foot, I usually put 2 bags on it. So go down 30 foot, go down another 30 foot, put a bag on, which is our primary winds on the south. So I just put it on that side. Uh, Still, after we get a thunderstorm or something, because it blows out of the west, which blows down all the rows on the farm, they will blow them off there. I mean, it's inevitable they blow off from time to time, but all I got to do is grab it and then pull it back up over the hoops. So it's really not that much of a task to do. But
It's
yeah, it's in a flow.
yeah, it's the kind of cover that you normally you're already accustomed to covering and uncovering with frost cloth, and so
Mhm.
if it comes off on one side and lays down, then you're kind of okay. You're used to fixing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you pop it right back over and it self tensions itself, so you really don't have to do much to it. And if I have ones that keep coming off, I just put a couple other row bags on it. I mean, for me, that part's never been an issue. That's the bigger pieces that are really the challenge.
Gotcha. Have you experimented with different kinds or qualities of insect netting or frost cloth? Have you found some that just fall apart right away? Um, are there different grades that you've had stay together better than others?
I honestly have not paid that much attention to the actual brand names of the products. I go to eBay. We've got a company called All Seasons Covered. That's just, it's like 60 miles from here on the other side of well, maybe 80 on the other side of Kansas City. So when I order stuff, it's here in 2 days. So pretty much I source most of the stuff through them. With the insect net, the biggest trick is that you're looking for the thicker plastic. The Protecto net type stuff is extremely thin. Like the insect net I've been using out here, I've got pieces that are 8 years old that I've used every single season, and they're holding up great, except for where I've got into them with the flame weeder. That's the
Oh,
only thing I've actually destroyed parts of them with is with the flame weeder. Um, the frost fabric itself, the floating row cover, the best thing I can tell you on that is just don't buy the cheapest, which is what, the 0.1 ounce or whatever it is. I usually go with the middle weight because it works better. The other good one, what is that? Rime? That's the thicker stuff. That stuff works really good. It doesn't seem like it holds in as much because it seems like it's a thinner fabric, but all in all, it's actually heavier. So it holds up much better. Because I mean, some of that frost fabric, you go and try to pull it, and you just pull right through it.
right, right. Your fingers, like you try to grab it and you thunk, oops. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit since you talked about weeds and weed fabric there. Let's talk about your weed program. Are you doing a lot of cultivation? Are you using a lot of like quick plant fabric or fabrics therein where you burn holes through woven plastic? What's kind of your program for weed control?
Yeah. So a lot of what we do for transplanting, we have two methods. One, we transplant into the woven fabric. I burn all my own holes because I want different spacings, and that's kind of where we've evolved to is setting it to where things grow best. We actually spread stuff out a little bit more because we need more basically movement during the summer when the winds do start to calm down. And then I picked up a little BCS plastic mulch layer years ago and converted it to sit on a 3-point hitch on the back of my tractor. So I also lay down plastic mulch, primarily white side up. And that's where anything that's going to be in the ground, basically more than 60-ish days will go in that. So I'll separate two fields. One will be for, you know, moving landscape fabric in and out with holes burned into it. The other one will be primarily just plastic mulch. It's all set up, ready to run. Um, that works great for transplanting. For direct seeding crops, I've actually standardized everything. I have a bed roller so I can draw out nice straight lines. And the spacing is set by the width of my stirrup hoe. So I think my stirrup hoe is 6 or 8 inches wide. So my row spacing is set up exactly at that spacing. So I can just make one pass down with the stirrup hoe, get the inside row, got a tine weeder that I can pull around what's left directly around the plant. So it's literally 2 passes per actual row on the bed to do most of my weeding. And I found doing that, I can get away with doing on a quick crop, direct seed lettuce, radish, that kind of stuff. Literally, it's 2 passes.
All
One
right.
about the 3rd week, once they're established enough to where I'm not worried about hurting them, and then usually 2 weeks later, and then I don't touch it and harvest.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Let's talk a minute about when you're running a small scale farm like this. A lot of the guys that I've seen that are really successful, um, they're really hyperly organized, but it's such a challenge. It's a challenge to stay organized on a farm in terms of where your stuff goes and keeping everything together, right? You're on one project here and then something happens in a wind event, over there and you're running to fix that. You're always running around trying to put out fires. How do you manage staying as organized as possible on your farm?
More than anything, I kind of just break things down by, I'm going to do this process on this day of the week and pretty much stick to it throughout the whole entire season. I mean, with most of our harvesting, because we're primarily farmers market and online delivery and online sales now, I'm setting that all up to where maybe start harvesting Wednesday, usually Thursday, Friday. That way they can all go in the walk-in. They get processed out through the same amount of time. Then I take Monday and Tuesday, and those are primarily my crop out planting days, cultivating days, that kind of stuff. Also catch up day. Try not to do anything on Saturdays and Sundays other than the farmers market because If you do this enough, you want the time off. But then that allows me Saturday and Sunday to do other things like I got to go brush hog a field off, or I need to go, you know, pick up all the tools that I've accumulated in the side of the high tunnel for the past week because I've been running around crazy trying to catch up. I mean, the other good thing about organization is just having a specific area for each thing. Like I've got all my fertilizer and amendments in one is a box. It's almost like a shed on the side of the larger tool shed. I have all my auxiliary tools in there. I don't use that much. All of my primary market gardening tools, because we went through 1 year and actually, as we used a tool, we marked it. So we knew what we used. Those all hang in the high tunnel on the wall. So they're in the center of the farm, easy to access. Same thing with the pack building. I've got all the supplies on a rack. It's actually sitting next to me because that's where I am now. All of the equipment is all in one exact area. Other than that, I mean, when it comes to crop planning, I don't have that specific of a plan. I more or less have a few dates I have to hit, and I don't hit that date exactly. I look and try to hit the week that that occurs in. You can't just go, I'm going to plant March 1st. No, I need to start transplants on the week of March 1st. And that way I know they can go in the ground, come April 20th, 21st, when our last frost hits. I know I have to pot them up at some point in between that, but I usually just kind of watch sizes. And then when it really hits summer, I'm planting transplanted lettuce 1 week. I'm planting greens, radishes, and direct seed lettuce the next week, and I just swap back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that window is so key, and I think when we make our plans, that's one of the things I appreciate about seed time. Is it builds in that week. Every time you put a crop, it's like, hey, here's your target week for this, and it may flex a little bit there. You may need to drag it and tighten it up a little bit or move it, and then when you actually record it in the system, it'll go to the day that you did it that year. But giving that week weather changes, like seeing the forecast, seeing the temperatures, you may go, you know what? I'm not going to transplant on this window. I'm going to wait until this cold weather, uh, you know, moves on and presses on. I think, especially as the weather patterns seem to change a little bit and get a little wilder each year, at least through a big chunk of the Midwest, it looks like many of the tornado normal alleyways have redrawn their lines, and they're like, hey, we're going to move and we're going to come a little bit further south, and we're going to have a lot more tornadoes, wind events and temperature swings, through Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee, where that was rarely the case 10 years ago. It was really the case like 5 years ago. And as we see these temperature swings, it's really important to just keep in mind, it's better to wait often than to try to go too early. I think you had a video like 3 days ago that came out of, hey, it's warm, hold, so talk about that.
70, yeah, it was 70 degrees all week. And I could see it at just being out in public. People are going, people are moving, seeing it on Facebook as well. Oh, I'm going to go out and start my garden today. It's like, no. And that's where I kind of like, well, I know what I'm shooting this week. So it's that whole, it'll trick you. I watch it happen all the time. Like I said, I did construction for years. We always have that 1 week really early in the spring where it warms up here. And then temperatures could drop for another 2 or 3 weeks to below freezing as your daytime temperature. So it's really kind of establishing a pattern from year to year, not necessarily following, what they're suggesting. Because we've moved 2 growing zones since I started this. And I don't follow the new frost date because inevitably it's still frost after the original frost date we had, 10 years ago. So it might be a light frost, but if I planted a bunch of stuff in the field, then I got to scurry, get out, row cover, and then I got to make sure it's going to stay on because we also have the winds this time of year. And it just, to me, it's not worth it. And the biggest thing is, especially with the farmer's market, you can heat your greenhouses, you can produce stuff way early. But if there's no one there to actually buy it, then why are you putting yourself through that? I mean, it's just, you can do it. But for me, it's gotten to the point of why would I want to do it? I prove I could, but am I gaining anything from the ability to actually do it?
That's huge. I think people understanding their markets, because there are certain markets that are popping in mid-May and everyone's excited to get out. They want to go to the farmers markets, and then they show up there and they're like, "Where's your watermelon?" You're like,
Uh-huh.
It's May 15th, and you're like, "I don't have watermelon yet." But they're like, "It's hot out." Just the concept of what it takes to produce a specific crop. Or where's your tomatoes? We know we're pushing for the early season tomato. Everybody is. Um, but are we actually going to end up profitable on the back end after investing so much in heating the tunnels, heating the greenhouses, trying to make it happen? Um, that's the great question.
Yeah.
And I think you've,
And I've tried that. I was able to get for here tomatoes out 2 weeks before the end of July, or the beginning of July, I'm sorry. But at that point in time, they weren't enough to, really fulfill the requirements we needed because we needed more. But I knew in 3 weeks I would have more than I needed. So there's just no balancing that to try to push that hard to do it when in the end it wasn't worth the trouble basically and wasn't
mm,
worth it financially even more than that.
yeah, I know for me, I'm kind of on the opposite end, at least in Missouri, where farming here, I would only grow the tunnels in, only put tomatoes in a tunnel, only put them in a greenhouse. I would put them in the soil a little bit earlier than I would normally. I would not heat, but I would make sure that I would keep them as warm as possible. So I'm keeping frost cloth on them, uh, you know, through a lot of the day to keep that heat in, putting black plastic down beside them so that it would heat that soil up to get that soil temperature. And I would have tomatoes in early June, but everybody else is only about 6 weeks in the ground. And so their tomatoes are this high, and I've got tomatoes on the vine. And so kind of market it a little bit on Facebook, get it out there that my tomatoes are ready, try to sell a huge flush of tomatoes. And then when everybody else's tomato sets on, I'm done. I was like, you know what? Yeah, like I'm going to be on the river, like I'm going to be out on the river fishing, and I'm not actually trying to sell tomatoes when everybody else is. So it all depends on the farm and the plan and the program that you're trying to create. Um, and I wanted to get those tomatoes right at the tail end of my strawberry season, just to keep that momentum and then kind of shut her down in the summer. But I don't know what I'm going to do this year. We'll see. We'll see. Uh, Jury's still out. I want to ask one more question, just kind of about the system and the processes that you've created, because I've seen a lot of your videos talking about the profitability of microgreens and little tweaks here and there, like adding a little few drops of fertilizer that makes a big difference on your microgreens, or a little bit of this. You've learned so many little tiny tricks along the way, and you've put them into kind of a new thing, like a blueprint, a farmer's blueprint to get started in market garden. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for a lot of the stuff I've done, I've really focused in on taking really good numbers and trying to see where I could eke things out here and there. I mean, if I'm only gaining, 1%, it's not worth doing. If I'm gaining 10 or 15%, I'm gaining a lot more. But the current project is actually, I've been working on the market gardening farm school here for about the past 2 years. That would be your higher level. I really want to perfect my market gardening. I want to see everything step by step. But more recently, I was working on rebranding and creating Growers Blueprint, which I ended up with this kind of on accident. I've got a book that I've created as self-published at this point. There's a final draft version. And this is more of a guide for somebody that is a traditional gardener that kind of wants to step into the market gardening world. It really outlines everything, that you really need to think about. Not just, it doesn't even go into how I'm going to grow this or that or this, or you need to use this much fertility or water this much. It's more of, hey, if I'm going to start this, I'm going to need irrigation, post harvest. I'm going to need ways to plant. I'm going to need ways to brand, sales outlets. That it's almost like a choose your own way type book. As you work your way through it, you create a blueprint for creating your own farm. Now I'm going to work on doing some, which I've been trying to get to. It's starting to get busy, putting together some actual course content for this. Because currently the Market Garden Farm School and Growers Blueprint, when I get it out, is just sold through our website, arkenbergfarms.com. Scroll down near the bottom. There's a box. It's now Growers Blueprint, Digital Tools and Training. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff down there. You can go check that out. But this is the foundation that I ended up with. This is kind of when I was trying to formulate all these courses, I started looking at them going, I think I actually created something here. And I started putting it together and really working on it. I'm like, I do believe I did. I wish I would have had a book like this when I actually first started, because all the books I read were more of, this is a great crop to grow. You do this to make it work better. And then, you package it to sell it. And it really didn't kind of give the whole, well, yeah, by the way, I need to take records and I need to, consider where I'm going to do my starts at, where, what I'm going to use for my land, how I'm going to choose where I'm going to go at. If I would have, initially when I first started the farm thought, it'd be a good idea. I make all my beds the same length. That way I can take anything on my farm and move it anywhere. That would have saved so much, because I had 40-foot beds and then I had 100-foot beds and I had 75-foot beds. And finally it's like, nope, we're going 90-foot. Stuff comes in 100-foot. If I need cover stuff, I'll just let the extra 5-foot hang in the wind. I mean, it's just, I know I have it and that's where I'm working to. But no, it's been a fun project to work on. Like I said, hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll have the final draft out. Going to be print to publish. I'll have the growersblueprint.com website set up, and that's where the actual Market Garden Farm School is going to migrate over to. And also should hopefully be able to have the book for sale there too. Also have it digital, of course. Great way to find it.
Very cool. And for your YouTube channel, where do people find you on YouTube? You've got a lot of videos and stuff there.
Yeah, I think I have over 600 videos now. Look up Farmer Keith. That's the easiest way to find it. The handle for it's actually at Farmer Keith. Got tons of content out there. A lot of the stuff earlier on, I've got it all broken down into different categories, DIY farm tools and others, which would be maker type projects where I'm either building stuff on my farm or building other stuff just because I wanted to shoot something that week. And I happened to make a video about building, like the cabinet behind me, which I believe I got that one out. I'm not sure, but it's all broken down in different categories. A lot of the videos go into growing focused. And like this season, I'm really focusing in on more of what my process is throughout the season as I go. Not, I'm jumping over here and doing this. I'm jumping over here and doing that. I want to kind of take everybody through the journey of the season and kind of how things progress. And, what the big topic is for each week will be the one that I actually shoot and do the video on. I mean, I don't go out there and constantly chase a camera around myself. I go out there with a plan, spend the time, get the shots I need, edit it, and try to get it out there, usually Fridays or Sundays, just whatever works best with the scheduling.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Keith, for, first of all you've done. And, I'm a big fan of supporting anybody who's trying to bring forth the local food movement and produce food locally and share that with their local community. So if you're ever in the Kansas City area and some of those farmers markets, check out Arkenberg Farms. We're going to show everything in the links down below so that you can have access to connect up with Farmer Keith in every place that he's at. Also, if you didn't know, this is brought to you by Seed Time. Seed Time is a digital garden planner, which easily allows you to plan and structure and stay on task all through the growing season, which is critical if you're a market farmer or thinking you want to move in that direction. And it's very, very helpful. Even if you're just a backyard grower with a few pots, it can be beneficial to you. Also, if you enjoy this episode, please like it. Smash the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and share it with a friend. That really helps us move forward in the algorithm. And if you don't like it, well, just don't say anything. Thank you so much, and we hope you had an amazing day today as you learned from Farmer Keith with Arkenberg Farms. Man, thanks for staying tuned all the way to the end. We're so excited that you're here, and that probably means that you enjoyed what you heard. You found some value in it. If you could, go and share this with somebody that you know. That really helps push it forward in the algorithm. Hit a like, a subscribe, hit a review. It makes all the difference for us. Thank you for listening to the How I Grow This podcast, and we are dedicated to bringing more of these stories to you to help you grow at the next level. We'll see you.